The sun had barely begun to rise over downtown Miami, and the heat already made the asphalt shimmer. Lucas Rivera wiped the sweat from his brow, his grease-stained hands moving quickly across the hood of a vintage Mustang. His small garage on NW 7th Street was alive with the usual chaos. The smell of motor oil, the hum of compressors, the occasional hiss of air tools. Since his father's passing 6 months ago, he'd been running the shop alone, juggling repairs, invoices, and the mounting pressure of keeping the legacy alive. Lucas was 22, with a wiry frame and sharp eyes that noticed everything about a car's engine. Despite his youth, he had a reputation for precision in the local street racing community, but that world was small, and his ambitions reached higher. He dreamed of working on rare exotics, the kind of cars that gleamed under showroom lights, and roared down Biscayne Boulevard. He had just finished tuning a carburetor when the garage door slammed open with a force that made the old fluorescent lights flicker. Lucas looked up, wiping his hands on a rag. A woman stepped inside, her heels clacking on the concrete, sunglasses perched on her head. Behind her, gleaming in the early light, was a Ferrari 480 ETB, cherry red and impossibly sleek, reflecting the Miami skyline. "Are you Lucas Rivera?" the woman demanded, her voice sharp, controlled, but tinged with impatience. "Yes, ma'am." "That's me," Lucas said cautiously, rising to his full height. "And you are?" "Isabella Marino," she said, straightening her posture as if to physically assert her presence in the small, cluttered garage. "I've been to 40 mechanics over the past 2 months, and none of them could figure out why this car keeps cutting out at higher PMs. I'm done paying for incompetence. You're my last hope." Lucas's eyebrows shot up. 40 mechanics. 40. And now this woman was expecting him, a 22-year-old running a small neighborhood garage, to succeed where a dozen high-end shops had failed. I'll do my best," he said carefully. "But I need full access. And honesty. If the car's been tampered with or worked on improperly, it'll slow us down." Isabella raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Tampered with?" "Lucas, I'm a corporate lawyer. I don't have time for small talk. I need results." Lucas swallowed the irritation rising in his chest. He was used to skeptical clients, but her tone carried something more, a sharp edge of entitlement and unspoken judgment. He reminded himself, "Stay calm. Stay professional." "Understood. Let's start with a proper diagnostic," he said. She tilted her head, scrutinizing him as if he were a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. "You're 22, right? This is a Ferrari, not a Honda Civic. Are you sure you're qualified?" Lucas felt a spark of defiance. Most people dismissed him for his age, for his small garage, for being the son of a local mechanic. But something in her voice, part incredulity, part challenge, made him straighten his back. "Age doesn't determine skill, ma'am. Experience does. I've worked on enough cars to know when a problem is surface level and when it's deep. I need the car keys and your trust. That's it." For a moment, Isabella stared at him. In disbelief, she opened her mouth, then closed it. No one had ever spoken to her like this. She was used to nodding mechanics, flattering words, and empty promises. Lucas's directness was disarming. "Fine," she said finally, tossing the keys onto the workbench with a small clink. "But if you screw this up, Lucas—" "I won't," he interrupted calmly, lifting the keys and examining the Ferrari with meticulous attention. "I won't, but if I fail, I won't charge you a dime. And if I succeed, we'll talk about fair compensation after." "That's the deal." Isabella blinked, clearly taken aback. Most mechanics demanded payment up front, often before touching the engine. Here was someone not just confident, but transparent. She hadn't expected honesty. "All right, Lucas," she said slowly, her voice softening just slightly. "You have one shot, one." Lucas smiled faintly, more to himself than to her. One shot, that's all anyone ever had. One chance to prove themselves. He opened his diagnostic laptop, connected the OBD2 scanner to the Ferrari, and watched the streams of data flash across the screen. There were hundreds of error codes, some active, some historical, each one a ghost from the work of mechanics past. You've looked at this yet? Isabella asked, leaning over his shoulder despite her professional restraint. I'm just starting, Lucas said. But from what I see, most of the previous shops replaced parts without understanding the system. The ECU has adaptive memory. It remembers faults long after they're gone, and that can throw off new parts. Her eyes widened slightly. Adaptive memory? Go on, Lucas explained carefully, pointing to the codes on the laptop. See this? These are historical errors from sensors that have already been replaced, but the ECU adjusts behavior based on these past faults. The car thinks the problem is still there. Replace a part without resetting the system? It's like treating a ghost. Isabella's sharp, lawyer mind grasped the concept immediately. So previous shops only address symptoms, not the root cause. Exactly, Lucas said, nodding. It's time-consuming, technical, and requires precision, but it can be done. If we reset the adaptive memory and run the proper learning cycles, the Ferrari will behave like new or better. Isabella's expression softened further. For the first time, she saw him not as a kid running a small garage, but as a professional, capable of real insight. She shifted her weight, removing her sunglasses. Her dark eyes, framed with traces of fatigue, studied Lucas carefully. You might be the first person in 2 months who didn't insult my intelligence, she admitted. Her voice quiet now, almost vulnerable. Or smile and nod while planning to overcharge me. Lucas kept his focus on the car, but he felt a small pulse of pride. I'll do my best, ma'am. That's all I can promise. But I need your trust, and I need time. Isabella nodded. You have both start immediately. I'll be back in the evening to see progress. As she left, Lucas let out a long breath. 40 mechanics had failed. The Ferrari's problems were legendary. And now Lucas Rivera, had taken the first step into uncharted territory. Failure wasn't an option, not for the car, not for the shop, and not for the legacy of his father. He turned back to the Ferrari, hands steady, mind focused. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he felt it, the spark of something bigger than a car repair, a chance to prove himself, a chance to earn respect, and perhaps somewhere along the way, a chance to understand this formidable woman who had stormed into his garage like a hurricane. The engine's purr was soft, but promising as Lucas began the careful diagnostic, his thoughts a mix of mechanical, puzzles, and the unexpected intrigue of a client unlike any he had ever encountered. This was the beginning, and nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk Lucas Rivera had spent the better part of the morning organizing the garage, cleaning tools, and double-checking every system in Isabella's Ferrari. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his hands were steady as he opened the hood once again, this time with a sense of purpose rather than routine. Today was the day he would confront the car's demons head-on. He began by reconnecting the diagnostic laptop, carefully monitoring every sensor, reading. The engine management system was a complex symphony of sensors, actuators, and algorithms, all orchestrated to deliver perfect performance. But the past repairs, well-intentioned, yet sloppy, had left the system confused. It remembered faults that no longer existed, and it had learned to behave as if the car were perpetually compromised. Lucas's focus was absolute, but he couldn't ignore the lingering thought of Isabella. She had left a few hours ago, her heels clicking away as if nothing had happened. Yet her presence lingered, as though the air itself remembered her intensity. It was not just her beauty, though she was striking, but the way she had demanded respect and expected honesty. She was a challenge he wanted to meet. He ran through their Ferrari's ECU logs again. Hundreds of historical errors flashed across the screen. Misfires, turbo pressure anomalies, sensor inconsistencies. Each one had to be addressed individually. One wrong move, one overlooked memory, and the Ferrari would continue to misbehave. Lucas muttered to himself, a habit he'd picked up from his father. Come on. What are you hiding? He traced a line of codes to the mass airflow sensor. Though it had been replaced, the ECU still flagged intermittent errors. Carefully, he disconnected it, cleaned the connectors, and reseated it, ensuring perfect contact. You want honesty, right? He whispered, "Here's the truth. This car isn't broken because of the parts. It's broken because no one understood it." By mid-morning, Lucas had traced most of the superficial faults. But he knew the real challenge would come next. Resetting the ECU's adaptive memory without introducing new problems. The Ferrari system was sophisticated, far beyond anything Lucas had encountered in standard repairs. A misstep could render the car completely unresponsive or worse, permanently damage it. He pulled out the official Ferrari diagnostic software borrowed from a friend at the dealership and loaded the deep reset module. The laptop hummed and Lucas's fingers hovered over the keys. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's see. If you're willing to forgive the past." Hours passed in a blur of concentration. Lucas reset modules individually: engine, transmission, turbo control, and even the complex stability and traction systems. Each reset required calibration, verification, and sometimes repeated attempts to ensure proper alignment. Sweat dripped from his brow and his arms ached, but he did not stop dot around noon. The garage door rattled. Lucas looked up, surprised to see Isabella leaning against the doorway, sunglasses removed and her expression curious but composed. "I didn't mean to disturb you," she said, her voice softer than before, almost cautious. "I just wanted to see how it's going." Lucas felt an odd mixture of pride and nervousness. "It's delicate work." "You don't want to distract me," he said, focusing back on the laptop. "I don't mean to distract," Isabella said, stepping further inside. I wanted to watch someone care about my car the way I would if I had the time." Her tone was quiet, reflective. Lucas glanced at her briefly, noting the faint exhaustion under her carefully curated appearance, the long days at the firm, the constant pressure, the battles she fought daily. He had always respected clients, but he found himself respecting her in a different way, admiring her drive, even as he remained fully aware of the tension in the air. Every previous shop saw Ferrari as a money machine, Lucas said, shaking his head slightly. "Replace parts, charge more, fail the client. But you're different. You asked for honesty, not flattery. You expected skill, not excuses." Isabella's lips quirked into a faint smile. "I think I've spent too long convincing people to take me seriously," she said. "I'm tired of pretending I don't know what I want or what I need. I just wanted someone to see the car and me for what we really are." Lucas turned fully toward her. "Then you came to the right place. I don't care about pretense. I care about results." The afternoon blurred. Lucas performed the learning cycle protocol. Careful acceleration, gradual braking, alternating speeds, monitoring each system in real time. The Ferrari responded in kind, hesitating occasionally as if testing him, forcing him to be meticulous. By 3 p.m., he had completed the first full system recalibration. He wiped his hands on a rag, exhaling deeply. The engine's purr was steady, smooth, and responsive, different, in a subtle but undeniable way, from the hesitant hum it had made just hours before. Isabella leaned over the hood again. "It sounds better," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "Not perfect yet, but better." Lucas nodded. "It's a process. I have to monitor it on the road, observe its behavior under real conditions. That's where the real test begins." Her eyes softened, and she glanced around the garage, taking in the organized chaos. Tools meticulously arranged, parts carefully cataloged, the small whiteboard with notes in Lucas's sharp handwriting. She saw the dedication, the focus, the care. "You really care," she said quietly. Lucas felt a small, almost unintentional swell of pride. "I care about the work," he said, "and about getting it right. That's all that matters." For the first time in 2 months, Isabella seemed to exhale, as if a weight had been lifted. The fear of failure, of being judged, of wasting time and money, it all seemed distant, replaced by a flicker of hope. Lucas returned to the laptop, noting subtle improvements in sensor readings. "If this holds up over the next few cycles, We might actually fix what no one else could, he said, a hint of cautious optimism in his voice. Isabella stepped closer. Lucas, can I ask you something? He looked up, meeting her gaze. Of course. Why didn't you just give up? Her tone was genuine, curious. He knew 40 other mechanics had failed. You're 22, running a small garage? Why risk your reputation on me? Lucas hesitated. There was no easy answer. Because I wanted to try, he said finally. Because it matters. Because sometimes the impossible is only impossible until someone decides to do it. She studied him, her sharp eyes softening. I think I like that about you, she admitted, almost in a whisper. Lucas felt a flicker of something unfamiliar in his chest. A small warmth, fleeting but undeniable. He returned to the laptop, carefully running another diagnostic test. Let's see if the impossible is ready to listen, he muttered. Fingers flying across the keyboard dot by 6 p.m., the first full road. Test was complete. Lucas and Isabella took the Ferrari through the streets of Miami, testing acceleration, braking, and high-speed stability. The car responded flawlessly, each sensor reading within perfect parameters. It was still early, but for the first time in 2 months, Isabella's Ferrari seemed alive. When they returned to the garage, Isabella leaned against the hood, her expression a mix of relief and awe. It actually feels like it did when I bought it, she said softly. Lucas smiled, though exhaustion tugged at his body. We're not done yet, but we're close. Tomorrow, we fine-tune, monitor, and run a few more learning cycles. But today, I think we made real progress. Isabella nodded, handing him a bottle of water. You've earned my trust, Lucas. Don't waste it. As she left, Lucas returned to his workbench, scribbling notes and observations in a notebook that had become his second brain. He thought of the hours ahead, the challenges still looming, and the small spark of admiration that had begun to grow for this fearless, demanding woman who had walked into his garage with a Ferrari and a lifetime of expectations. And somewhere deep inside, Lucas realized that fixing the car was no longer just about preserving his father's legacy. It was about proving that he, too, could rise to the impossible. Asterisk the next morning. Miami hummed with the predictable chaos of the city. Delivery trucks honking, pedestrians darting across streets, and sunlight glinting off the ocean in the distance. Lucas Rivera arrived at the garage before sunrise, energized despite the fatigue of the previous day. He had spent the night reviewing data logs, planning the next stage of the Ferrari's recovery. Today wasn't just about fixing a car, it was about earning Isabella's absolute trust. By 7 a.m. Isabella arrived in her modest black sedan, parked discreetly in front of the garage. She didn't wear a business suit today, just casual jeans and a crisp blouse, her hair pulled back into a practical ponytail. Even in casual wear, she commanded presence. Morning, she said, removing her sunglasses. I didn't sleep well last night, worrying if you could actually fix it. Lucas smiled, leaning on the hood of the Ferrari. Good news. It's ready for the full learning cycle. Today, we test under every condition you normally drive in stop-and-go traffic. Highway acceleration, uphill climbs, and cornering. I need to see how it behaves with you behind the wheel. Isabella nodded, a mixture of apprehension and curiosity in her eyes. I trust you, but I'm nervous. This car's been a nightmare for months. It's hard not to expect the worst. Lucas opened the driver's side door for her. Then let's make today about rewriting expectations. Follow my instructions, and I promise we'll get it right. The Ferrari roared to life, its engine purring like a predator, stretching after a long nap. Lucas monitored the live data feed as Isabella drove through the quiet streets, her hands gripping the wheel with precision. For the first 20 minutes, the car responded flawlessly. Every sensor was in harmony, every module behaving as though it had just left the factory. You can actually feel the difference, Lucas said quietly, eyes on the laptop. The throttle is immediate, turbo pressure is stable, and the traction control isn't compensating for phantom errors. Isabella exhaled slowly. It feels alive again, like it remembers what it's supposed to do. The calm didn't last. When Isabella accelerated onto I-95 for a short stretch of highway testing, the Ferrari hesitated for the briefest moment, a flicker that almost went unnoticed. Lucas tensed. Hold steady, he murmured. He could see the micro adjustment in the AQ attempting to recalibrate mid-drive. Isabella noticed his concentration. Relax, she said, a teasing edge to her tone. I've driven this car hundreds of times. I've got it. Lucas shook his head slightly, not looking up from the laptop. This is the moment that makes or breaks the reset. Trust me, it's delicate. Don't panic. The Ferrari adjusted seamlessly, the flicker gone as the adaptive memory recalibrated itself. Lucas exhaled, relief flooding through him. Perfect. Just like that. For the next hour, they drove through Miami's varied terrain. City streets. With potholes and traffic lights, the winding curves of Biscayne Boulevard, and finally the uphill stretches leading out of Coral Gables. Every time Isabella pushed the Ferrari, Lucas monitored the laptop, correcting minor adaptive hiccups. In real time, by midday, Isabella pulled into a quiet roadside cafe and parked. Sweat gleamed on her forehead, but her eyes sparkled. It actually works, she said softly, almost in disbelief. Every time I accelerate, it's precise. No hesitation. No weird lag. None of the failures I've been cursed with. For months, Lucas allowed himself a small smile. It's not perfect yet. Full calibration will take another few drives, but you're past the critical point. This car remembers how to be a Ferrari again. She studied him, her gaze intense and curious. Lucas, why are you doing this for me? I mean, you could have walked away. 40 mechanics before you. They all gave up or just charged me and failed. Why risk your reputation on someone like Emmy? Lucas hesitated, suddenly aware of the intimacy in the question. He looked down at the laptop, at the sea of numbers and codes, at the subtle improvements he had coaxed from the car. Because I don't see you as just a client, he admitted slowly. I see someone who deserves to be treated with respect. And because I believe in doing the job right even when it's impossible. Isabella tilted her head, intrigued. You make it sound like a moral choice, not a technical one. He shrugged, brushing a smudge of grease from his sleeve. In a way, it's both. Cars are precise machines, but people are messy. Treat them both properly, and magic can happen. For the first time, Isabella laughed, a sound that seemed rare and genuine. You're bold for a 22-year-old. Most men my age or older would be intimidated by someone like me. Lucas raised an eyebrow. I am not intimidated. I just don't like wasting time. You demand honesty. I give it. That's it. There was a pause, charged and quiet. The cafe's early morning crowd moved around them, oblivious to the tension building between the mechanic and the lawyer. Finally, Isabella spoke, softer this time. I like that about you. You're fearless, not reckless, just unafraid to do the hard thing. Lucas felt a warmth rise in his chest. He returned to the Ferrari, checking sensors one last time, before heading back onto the road. We're not done, but I appreciate that. Let's finish what we started. The afternoon passed in a blend of meticulous work and unexpected camaraderie. Lucas guided Isabella through advanced techniques to test the car, controlled braking at various speeds, simulated engine load changes, and gentle, aggressive cornering. With each maneuver, the Ferrari responded flawlessly. By 5 p.m., they returned to the garage. Lucas exhaled, leaning against the workbench, exhausted but exhilarated. Isabella stepped out, her expression one of awe and relief. It's perfect, she whispered. It really is. I don't think I've ever felt this confident driving it since I bought it. Lucas smiled, looking at the machine that had caused so much stress, now humming in contented power. It's not just the car, it's about understanding it and respecting the process. She approached him slowly, hands resting lightly on the hood. I trust you now, she said, completely. Not just with my car, but with the decisions. that matter. Lucas felt a flicker of something he couldn't name pride. Yes, but also a growing connection he hadn't anticipated. I won't let you down, he said quietly, almost more to himself than to her. Isabella gave a small nod. A silent acknowledgement of trust earned and a partnership formed. For Lucas, the garage had transformed from a place of work into a space where respect, skill, and courage collided, and where he was beginning to understand the deeper rewards of honesty, patience, and unwavering dedication. As the sun dipped below the Miami skyline, casting a warm glow on the garage, Lucas and Isabella stood side by side, watching the Ferrari gleam under the soft light. In that moment, neither spoke of contracts, payments, or deadlines. Instead, they simply shared the quiet satisfaction of a challenge met, a bond formed, and a seemingly impossible problem finally solved. And somewhere beneath the hum of fluorescent lights and the lingering scent of motor oil, Lucas felt that today was just the beginning of the car's revival, of a partnership, and perhaps of something neither he nor Isabella had expected. Yet both quietly hoped for asterisk by Monday morning. The garage felt alive in a way it hadn't for months. Sunlight poured through the wide open doors, illuminating the rows of gleaming cars that reflected both Lucas's skill and Isabella's careful investment. The Ferrari, now fully reset and calibrated, rested proudly on the hydraulic lift. Lucas ran through the final checks one more time: fluid levels, tire pressures, brake calibration. Every system reported green, every sensor aligned perfectly. Isabella arrived promptly, carrying a small tote bag with paperwork, coffee, and a faint smile that made Lucas's chest tighten. "Morning," she said casually, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Morning," Lucas replied, wiping his hands on a rag. "Ready for the final test?" She nodded, climbing into the Ferrari like it was an extension of herself. "Let's do it. Today, it has to be perfect." Lucas monitored the data feed as she drove through Miami streets, stopping at intersections, accelerating onto boulevards, and taking the curves along Ocean Drive. Every maneuver returned a perfect readout. No hesitation, no error codes, no signs of previous malfunctions. Lucas felt a rare sense of satisfaction. This wasn't just fixing a car. This was restoring confidence. When Isabella returned an hour later, her expression was one of quiet triumph. "It's perfect," she said. "Better than I could have imagined. It feels alive, like it's finally meant to be driven." Lucas allowed himself a small smile. "It's responding the way it was designed. That's all you asked for." She stepped out of the car, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's more than that. You didn't just fix the car, you understood it. You respected it." She studied him for a moment, eyes softening. "And you respected me." "That's rare, Lucas. Very rare." Before he could respond, Lucas's phone buzzed. A text from one of Isabella's law partners. "Need you to look at a client's Maserati today. Electrical issue. They say you're the only one who can fix it." Lucas hesitated. He could feel the tide of opportunity building, the possibility of establishing himself as Miami's go-to mechanic for high-end vehicles. But Isabella noticed the tension. "You're thinking about taking more cars?" she asked. Lucas faltered. "I could start building a client base. But I want to make sure your Ferrari is absolutely perfect first." She smiled knowingly. "Good. That's why I hired you." Patience and precision over shortcuts and quick money. They shared a quiet moment before the morning rush of the garage resumed. The first client arrived, a sleek black Maserati Levante with a persistent electronic throttle issue. Lucas dove into the work with methodical focus, Isabella observing, occasionally offering her perspective from her engineering background. Hours passed in a blur of diagnostics, live data analysis, and precise adjustments. The Maserati responded under his hands like an obedient partner in a complex dance. By late afternoon, the client drove away satisfied, amazed that a 22-year-old had solved what 3 seasoned mechanics could not. Isabella clapped softly. a rare display of unrestrained enthusiasm. See, this is exactly why you belong here. This is your element. Lucas felt a swell of pride, but also a growing awareness of what this partnership meant, not just for their careers, but for themselves. Isabella wasn't just a client. She was a collaborator, a mentor in business savvy, and increasingly someone who had begun to occupy of his mind he hadn't intended to share. The garage's doorbell rang again. This time, it wasn't a client, it was a courier delivering an envelope. Lucas tore it open to find a letter from the Florida Luxury Automotive Association, inviting him to a prestigious mechanics summit in Miami, his work with Isabella's. Ferrari had caught attention far beyond the local scene. That's incredible, Isabella said, peering over his shoulder. You're on your way to national recognition. And you deserve it. Lucas looked at her, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Hi. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of exposure. What if I fail? You won't, she said firmly. And even if you stumble, you'll have learned more than anyone else in the room. You can handle this. You've handled far worse. The words were reassuring, but Lucas realized there was more than professional trust building between them. The quiet connection they had developed over tense diagnostic sessions, long nights, and early mornings had grown into something deeper. And now, in the golden light of the garage, the unspoken tension finally demanded acknowledgement. Isabella approached him, her hand brushing his as she passed. The contact was brief but electric. Lucas swallowed hard. Isabella, there's something I need to say about us. She stopped, facing him fully. Her eyes held both challenge and curiosity. Go ahead. Lucas hesitated, his usual confidence, faltering under the weight of the moment. I care about more than just your Ferrari, about more than just this garage. About you. I know you're smart, successful, independent, but I can't ignore how much I would be more than just your mechanic. Isabella's expression softened. She took a step closer. Lucas, I was hoping you'd say that, because I feel the same. But we need to be careful. There are eyes everywhere, clients, colleagues, even family members judging every move. But if we're honest, I think we can handle it. Relief and exhilaration collided in Lucas's chest. Then we'll figure it out together. She smiled, a genuine, tired but radiant smile that seemed to light up the garage. Together, the next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lucas's reputation spread like wildfire. Luxury car owners bringing their vehicles to the garage for diagnostics he alone seemed able to execute flawlessly. Isabella became more than a client. She became a partner in strategy and logistics, helping him navigate contracts, manage finances, and organize schedules for the increasingly busy garage. They established a new initiative and apprentice program for aspiring mechanics from underrepresented communities. Lucas taught technical skills, while Isabella managed administration and legal oversight, ensuring the young mechanics were protected and fairly compensated. They weren't just repairing cars, they were building futures. Amidst the chaos, their personal connection deepened. Coffee breaks turned into shared lunches. Conversations about engines morphed into conversations about life, dreams, and vulnerabilities. Slowly, the walls they had built around themselves began to crumble. Lucas learned of Isabella's struggles in the male-dominated legal world, the constant microaggressions and the pressure to perform perfectly. Isabella discovered Lucas's own insecurities, the fear of failing his uncle's legacy, the doubts about whether his talent was enough to succeed on a larger stage, and yet together they thrived. Their bond became a blend of trust, respect, and admiration, a foundation that neither had experienced before. The day arrived for the garage's grand reopening, a modernized space, fully equipped with tools, lifts, and a dedicated area for apprentices. The event was attended by clients, luxury car enthusiasts, and members of the automotive press. The Ferrari, the car that had brought them together, was on display at the center, gleaming under the overhead lights, a symbol of their partnership and perseverance. Lucas stood beside Isabella on the balcony, overlooking the bustling floor. We did it, he said softly. She took his hand, squeezing it gently. We did it together. Below, the apprentices worked diligently, guided by the knowledge and experience Lucas imparted. Clients admired the attention to detail, the integrity, and the meticulous care evident in every repair. The garage was no longer just a place to fix broken cars. It was a symbol of opportunity, respect, and excellence. Lucas and Isabella shared a quiet moment, watching the culmination of months of work, struggle, and trust. Do you realize, Isabella said thoughtfully, that none of this would exist if either of us had taken the easy route? If I hadn't trusted you, or if you hadn't stood your ground? Lucas nodded. Yeah, it all started with courage. Yours to trust, mine to act. She smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. Here's to courage, Lucas, and to whatever comes next. He kissed the top of her head, the city lights of Miami sparkling around them. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And as the garage buzzed below with life, opportunity, and hope, Lucas realized that the impossible had been achieved, not just with a Ferrari, but with respect, trust, and the courage to confront the challenges of life head on, because sometimes changing a car and a life required more than skill. It required integrity, resilience, and the rare courage to stand up when no one else would. And in that, Lucas and Isabella had discovered not just success, but a partnership capable of transforming not only their lives, but the lives of everyone they touched.